Hello and welcome to the short Vort on Parshas Vayigash from Chamishi to Shishi. In this week's Sedra, we learn the lesson of never giving up hope, that anything is possible. In Chamishi, we have Yaakov rejoicing as he learns the news that his son Yosef is in fact alive and is in Egypt. After 22 years, he heads down to Egypt in order to see his son. It then enumerates the 69 children and grandchildren that he brought down to Egypt. And one of the interesting things is that amongst the tribes is one tribe with 10 children, that's Binyamin, and then there's another tribe with Dan that has only one child. Later on we do various counts of the Bnei Yisrael, and if you look in Bamidbar, we see an interesting observation. Of a family that has 10 grandchildren for Yaakov, or the tribe that has only one grandchild, which one do you think would be larger 210 years ago? You'd probably say the one that had 10 children to Binyamin, rather than the one child to Dan. In fact, this one child, Chushim ben Dan, is a cripple in effect that he cannot hear. He's deaf, and which is something that would be bad for shidduchim. And yet later on in Bamidbar, we actually find out that they had done 62,700 members of the tribe of males between the ages of 20 and 60. In contrast, Binyamin, who had 10 sons, which you would think he'd be the most numerous tribe, only had about 35,000 descendants after 210 years. So if you had one child became 62,000, that's pretty incredible. So whether you're looking for a job, you're looking for a shidduch, you're looking for improvement in health, the circumstances that you experiences does not mean that you will have the same type of results that you would expect. It could be that someone in bad circumstances today will do much better later, and someone in great circumstances today, unfortunately, will fall on hard times. I ran the numbers as an analyst, and it actually is very quite possible for the Bnei Yisrael to multiply over 210 years, depending what numbers and assumptions you made, whether a generation is 20 years or 30 years. But you can get millions of Jews after 210 years, just starting from those 50 or so descendants of Yaakov. And even the Chushim ben Dan, depending what your assumptions are, having 2 or 3 for the first cycles of children each generation, and then having the blessing of Shisha Bekras Achad, 6 at one time, they can multiply really fast as you go down the generations after 210 years. For a more carnage example, I'd like to compare Rabbi Yashiv to Bibi Netanyahu, not because of the multiplication factor of Bibi Netanyahu's father, Ben Sion, who passed away at about the same age and about the same time, about 102, 103 years old. While the more secular Ben Sion Netanyahu only was survived by his 2 sons. One unfortunately was killed in Entebbe, and several grandchildren, 3 from Bibi Netanyahu. That was it after 100 years. Meanwhile, Rabbi Yashiv, we can say Lahavdil, after 100 years, he had close to 1,000 descendants. So if you take the 1,000 descendants and assume they multiply by another 1,000 in another 100 years, which is roughly 210 years of the time you were in Egypt, you'd have 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000. So starting from one person, you can have 1,000,000. So if you have 70, you can do a lot better, and then there's various factors that obviously would make circumstances change. So just once again, remember the lesson of this parsha, that even though things may not be auspicious, they can turn out really well, and sometimes when things are looking great, they don't turn out what you want. You just have to have emunah in Hashem. He'll deliver what we want and what's right, what we should want, what'll be right for us. So thank you for listening, and have a wonderful Shabbos and a wonderful weekend.